you're doing is defining away gain of function. No. You're simply saying it doesn't exist because you changed the definition on the NIH website. This is terrible, and you're completely trying to escape the idea that we should do something about trying to prevent a pandemic from leaking from a lab. There's the preponderance of evidence now points towards this coming from the lab, and what you've done is change the definition on your website to try to cover your ass, basically. That's what you've done. You've changed the website to try to have a new definition that doesn't include the risky research that's going on. Until you admit that it's risky, we're not going to get anywhere. It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's let Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2. That's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well, wait a minute.
It did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating.
Here now with reaction, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. He's also a medical doctor. Senator, now we know from the Energy Department, now we knew from the FBI, shockingly, our own National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, is not even accepting what we now have learned. There's a variety of views in the intelligence community about the origins of COVID-19. You had been out there saying that Dr. Fauci was lying and that it did, in fact, American money was a funnel from the NIH to the EcoHealth Alliance to the Wuhan Virology Lab, and didn't we know that gain-of-function research and coronavirus research took place in that lab?
Yeah, can you say this is another win for conspiracy theorists? Because you had so many people come out here and talk about, well, you know, during this whole freaking pandemic, you had left-wing liberal media talk about, Trump talk about, the virus may have came from China. They left-wing media and also progressive media try to do everything in their power to try to make sure that, you know, all that backlash is going away from their leaders, which is, you know, the people who are in charge over there in China. And I gotta make sure I'm reiterating here. I ain't talking about the Chinese people in general. I'm talking about the Chinese government. Well, a lot of people, especially when it pertains to the Dr. Fauci's, they try their best to even though it was his agency, the NIH, that was funding American taxpayer money to the Wuhan Institute of Technology over there in China. Yeah, China. They did their best to try to save face and talk about, we ain't have no responsibility for this. We ain't had nothing to do with this. You know, a lot of people just need to get off our backs. You know, people who spread this are spreading nothing but misinformation and all that other ordeals. And then when you had a Republican, once again, the only Republican in Congress that's not chicken shit, Rand Paul call out Dr. Fauci and what he's done to the American people. You had some people who was playing dick riding with Dr. Fauci, even though he was clearly in the wrong during this whole ordeal. And when Rand Paul was calling Dr. Fauci out for the whole gain of functions ordeal, where once again he sent the American taxpayer money to the Wuhan Institute of Technology, the supposed place that had the lab leak when it pertains to the virus, to the COOF. Then you had some people online when it pertains to you know, social media influencers on, you know, Twitter, Instagram, and then you had some celebrities like Dave Bautista say Rand Paul is nothing but some crazy white dude, even white Republican conspiracy theorists. You have, you know, individuals like that says, Fauci is grilling Rand Paul. Again, they just blatantly dick riding Dr. Fauci to the utmost, worshiping him like he's some sort of god. Even though Dr. Fauci did say, if you challenge me, that means you are challenging science. Even though this guy is not science, this guy has a freaking god complex because Trump gave him that power. And now, when it turns out that this lab leak did come from a Wuhan lab over there in China. Now, all of a sudden, everybody is flabbergasted that this story has now came out 3 years later. But, you know, once again, when Trump said that this lab leak did come from the Wuhan Institute of Technology over there in China, everybody just automatically called them racist. Even though the same outlets like CNN and MSNBC kept on saying, like, this conspiracy theory has been debunked. Now, all of a sudden, everybody is hopping on it and say, you know what? Did this come from a lab leak over there in Wuhan, China? Now, all of a sudden, everybody saying like they don't know who to believe when, you know, when it comes to this ordeal, when everybody was, you know, praising Dr. Fauci, talk about Dr. Fauci knows what he's doing, even though Dr. Fauci was getting it wrong the entire other time. And now, instead of me explaining it to you guys, let me just go ahead and show you this article right here. Rand Paul vindicated. Government agency says lab leak or likely origin of the COOF. In November 2021, Senator Rand Paul asked White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci during a Senate hearing if the National Institute of Health, the NIH, supported gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China. Fauci staunchly denied that the funding and Paul's lab leak theory as it pertained to the origins of the COOF. It makes me very uncomfortable to have to say something, but he is egregiously incorrect in what he says, Fauci said Paul. And this was before this this news came out. The New York Times reported on Sunday the new intelligence has prompted the Energy Department to conclude that an accidental laboratory leak in China most likely caused the COOF pandemic. Do U.S. spy agencies remain divided over the origins of the virus? America's officials said on Sunday. The conclusion was a change from the department's earlier position that it was undecided on how the virus emerged, the report says. It's not just the Energy Department that has now come to this conclusion. The Times added, in addition to the Energy Department, the FBI, who is also a crony-ass organization, has also concluded with moderate confidence that the virus first emerged accidentally from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a Chinese lab that worked on, you know, COOF viruses. Paul grilled Fauci at multiple hearings over the origins of COVID and whether the NIH funded Wuhan lab could have been the culprit. At each turn, Fauci denied the possibility and accused Paul of being dishonest in his questioning. The establishment media more often accused Paul or the right of talking to Fauci rather than following up on the validity of the senator's claims. A May 2021 Washington Post fact check gave Paul's claims two Pinocchios. So you had establishment media coming at the Rand Paul because he was literally doing his job and calling out Dr. Fauci and what he was doing, or how did the Wuhan Institute of Virology, how did they get this money that actually had the lab leak? How did they get this money? Oh, through gain of functions. Then all of a sudden, Anthony Fauci did his best to make sure to try to get the heat away from him. And then he, on his own website, the NIH website, he had his people change the definition of gain of function so the heat will be off his ass. And then here's the thing, man. I'm just go off the well for a second right here. And then when some mother Fletcher came at me talking about I'm wrong about this, I should be listening to Fauci more. It was like it was some dude on the YouTube who's also a content creator. You know, he came at me talking about, oh man, I'm wrong about this. I'm wrong about this. Then I asked the dude, hey, come, let's do a live debate. You bring your information, I'll bring mine. That motherfucker, that bitch ass nigga still ain't come at. I'm still waiting a whole year later for that bitch ass nigga to come at to say, oh, I was wrong. He when I called him out was said like, yo, let's do a live stream debate. The motherfucker didn't want to do it. So you know, you had some people like that talk about, oh, you're wrong in this kind of situation, but then when you actually bring forth some evidence or some news stories and some statistics, then all of a sudden dudes don't want to come at you. But now let me go ahead and keep on going with this, guys. Sorry for that little deal. So here's the full Fauci quote. There's all this concern about what gains of function or what's not, with the implication that the research lab to SARS-CoV-2 and COOF, which George unequivocally anything that knows anything about viral biology and phylogeny of viruses know that is miraculously impossible for those viruses that were worked on to turn into SARS-CoV-2 because they were distant enough molecularly that no matter what you did to them, they could never ever become SARS-CoV-2. Paul wrote in a November 2021 op-ed, why so many machinations and word manipulations, because ultimately we're talking about culpability here. NIH under Dr. Fauci's tutelage funded research in Wuhan that used recombinant genetics to merge a known bat coof with a known pandemic pathogen, the SARS virus. So after this whole ordeal came out, now you got Fauci runs to China's defense as lab leak theory gains steam. Recently, Fauci had, and this dude has been quiet for a while now. Recently, Fauci has defended China's officials who have faced accusations of denying access to scientists investigating the origins of coof. The reason I'm saying coof is because you already know how YouTube is going to be, you know, with a lot of people doing this story now. So I gotta be careful what I'm saying here, you know, pertaining to a certain subject. He believes that it is not the fault of the Chinese Communist Party, but rather the critics of China who are responsible for the lack of transparency that has plagued everyone trying to figure out where the disease originated. Fauci is confident that increased transparency will reveal that the virus arose from natural transmission rather than from a lab leak in Wuhan. A virus like this doesn't just come out of nowhere. A virus that has a 99.9% survival rate. Like, you had people, actual scientists, and I put that in quotations because mainly they're just paid off actors, that said this virus has a 99.9% survival rate. All of a sudden, it's the most dangerous virus ever in history. Like, it's more dangerous than the Black Plague, and the Black Plague literally killed millions of people in a span of months. The problem is that they've attacked the Chinese so badly. Fauci said the Chinese authorities acted suspicious even when they had nothing to hide. Fauci, who served as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease and is President Biden's chief medical advisor, he was also Trump's. That was Trump's biggest mistake, bringing forth this motherfucker. Retired at the end of 2022. However, he has not slowed down, as he is now in high demand for speeches and opinion pieces. Yeah, this guy is going to get grilled out of his ass for real. And then now, all of a sudden, the lab leak comes out. You got a whole bunch of mother Fletchers coming out here and being surprised that this theory actually is actually a thing. Or they do not want to admit that, you know, maybe the conspiracy theorist was right about this whole deal, that the coof did come from a lab leak over there in Wuhan, China. Now, hey, these some people don't seem so racist now. Now all of a sudden they are going with the conspiracy theorists. So can you say this is another win for conspiracy theorists? I don't know. Let's ask the St. Uyghurs and anti-conspirationists from the progressive Young Turks.
There are two major things to look out here for. First of all, did it come from a lab leak? Nearly impossible to know. Damn it, Jim, I'm not a virologist. Having said that, did you hear what Anna just read you guys? It came out of the city that has the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a Chinese lab that worked on coronaviruses. Man, that is an awfully large coincidence.
Really? Is a large coincidence? How 3 years later, now all of a sudden the conspiracy theorists are now right?
And that's what I've thought throughout, that was an awfully large coincidence. Now, in the beginning, people swore up and down that it was natural and not from a lab. We'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah, you was one of them. You said, "Oh, there was no way that this came from a lab over there, Wuhan." These right wingers or these conspiracy theorists are just pushing the blame. Or as a matter of fact, nah, they're actually racist for actually saying that this virus actually came from China. You was one of those people who said that, St. Uyghur.
Actually, can we address that right now?
Yeah.
Because one thing that's become increasingly clear to me, especially over the last year, is that I don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
Right?
This whole time you was trusting Anthony Fauci though. Now you don't know who to trust?
I certainly don't trust reporters. Because reporters treated this initially as if it was nothing more than a crazy, unhinged conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So you automatically believed that that conspiracy theory.
Who do you trust, right? You can't trust the legacy media outlets because that was their narrative. Right-wing media, tends to go in the direction of it was definitely a lab leak, but they have their own biases. So what do you trust?
Is it okay? So these same people who claim that it was most likely a lab leak, from what I've seen, they're not right-wingers. So now all of a sudden, the right-wingers have what they biases in their mind. So now all of a sudden, people are confused about this whole ordeal. Even though, you had Rand Paul, like I said, Rand Paul, who was bringing forth statistics and, the gain of function research and where that money was actually going. It was going to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now all of a sudden, people are confused about this whole ordeal, saying like, "Oh, I don't know who to believe anymore." You should. This is why you never go full. You never go full stupid, or you never go full. I believe in the establishment media.
Yeah.
Who do you trust? Even the intelligence community in the United States is divided on this issue. And it's not just about the coronavirus pandemic, guys. It's about every single political issue. I don't know who to trust.
Yeah. So I'm going to make it worse before I make it better.
Okay, go ahead.
So first of all, the main organization that put out a report saying it was definitely from a natural occurrence was the World Health Organization. Normally fairly reputable.
And the World Health Organization is a crony ass organization as well. You really think they ain't get no money off of this whole shutting down businesses? Like for real, during this whole pandemic, who gained the most money out of this whole ordeal? It definitely wasn't Amazon. It was not Twitter. It was not Facebook. It was not any of these big tech corporations. No, it was the big pharmaceutical companies. That's who gained the most money out of this whole pandemic when it came to Pfizer, Moderna, and like the NIH, any pharmaceutical health organization. They gain the most money out of this ordeal. Now all of a sudden, people are confused.
And trustworthy, except for the fact that in this particular case, China demanded that half the people on the panel be from China. And so it was a very, very...
And just to speak on that, do you really think, once again, like the Chinese government, like I said, the government, not the people, the Chinese government was not being transparent with the whole deal. I remember last year, like when this thing first happened, actually, yeah, about 2 years ago, when this thing first happened, the Chinese government was not, actually giving out truthful numbers. They was talking about, and the numbers from what they got, they were saying like they had no, deaths from the virus. They kept on saying it was zeros every week. It was 0 deaths, 0 deaths, 0 deaths, 0 deaths, and now all of a sudden, people mainly from the left, and progressive left, they are confused. Like, hey, did China lie to us this whole time? No shit, they did.
Questionable finding, but it was reported as if it was legitimate.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so
no, it didn't. It was by paid off actors.
So that makes it worse. Second of all, you think, well, okay, now it's pretty settled. I mean, you got the Energy Department, your FBI even saying more so. That they think it was a lab leak, and come on, the Wuhan virology lab's right there. What are the chances it's not? Okay, but be careful of the new reports too. Why? Because now all of a sudden you've got Republicans like the one we just showed you in the beginning, and Democrats who are more hawkish and inclined towards neoconservatism, coming out saying this is the fault of the Chinese Communist Party. So remember, we've been reporting about how we're starting to do more warmongering towards China.
Yep.
The Pelosi visit, the arms sales to Taiwan, the Chinese spy balloons, and the other rando balloons we shot.
I'm not listening to this crap. I'm just not. But guys, once again, man, now all of a sudden, once again, is this another win for the conspiracy theorists? I believe it is. Okay, because now all of a sudden that there's more evidence come out that the coup did come from a lab leak in Wuhan, China. Now all of a sudden everybody is all of a sudden they confused about this whole deal. Like, oh my God, why would the government lie to us? Like, no, seriously. You literally have some people like that. Like, what? Like, why would the government lie to us? Like, they supposed to be protecting us. No, those freaking buffoons, man. Like, for real. Once again, I'm still waiting on the one guy who came at me sideways, talking about, oh, I'm wrong about Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci is actually trying to help us out here. And now all of a sudden, when it turns out that Anthony Fauci was lying this whole time, I'm still waiting on that one guy to actually call in and tell me about how I'm wrong here. But guys, this whole ordeal is crazy right now. Like, for real. You had some people, maybe like independent, libertarian, even some Republican, trying to point out this story a long time ago about how this actually came from a lab leak in Wuhan, China, and the Chinese government didn't do anything to actually prevent it or try to actually slow down the spread. They ain't actually doing anything to permit it. They actually tried to shift over the blame to the American military. Yes, they did. They said, "Oh, this is the fault of the American military." They literally the Chinese government actually tried to do that. But now all of a sudden that this lab leak story is now coming out. Now all of a sudden a lot of people are confused about this whole ordeal about who the hell they can believe. Maybe you should believe some of the people who are not actually bought and paid for actors, like who don't work for CNN or MSNBC, or people like some people like over there on the Young Turk side that does not want to agree with a libertarian or a Republican. They would do their damnedest to not actually say like, hey, maybe y'all was right in this situation. Maybe you guys was thinking ahead of us by 5 steps. Just some more deals like that. But guys, now that the story is out, now a lot more people are flabbergasted about this whole deal, and now they are looking to Anthony Fauci for answers, even though the guy retired last year. Actually, that mofo should be in jail for the whole NIH gain of functions, gain of functions thing that he sent American taxpayer money to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. He helped fund this thing, and now people was out of a job. People lost their homes, lost their livelihood, and while Congress saying like, "Hey, we're gonna take 2 weeks to slow the spread," while you was missing a whole bunch of paychecks, whether you got paid once a week or twice a month, the people in Congress did not miss a goddamn paycheck, man. These guys deserve to be under the bridge, for real. They deserve to be under the bridge. But guys, that's all I got for right here, man. If you guys like I'm saying, like and subscribe to the video. If you guys have a disagreement, make sure you comment down below. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.